So yeah, we already have a number of attendants. Okay. All right. Hi. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to PayCentre Africa webinar. My name is Bura Olabulafon, and I am the team lead, Public Relations and Communications at eSettlement Limited. We are really delighted to have everyone here on our webinar today. And we hope that this webinar will be a very learning experience for both of us, right? Both the agents.
Am I fine now?
Yes, Bolabo, you are.
Great. Hi.
Thank you. Welcome, Bolabo. So yeah, we have experts from different financial institutions in our industry that we work with, banks, and also from e-settlements, just to put us through the process. I mean, as agents, bankers, we have over 40,000 agents now, and some of the complaints we get over and over all the time, most of the time, is the issue of debit errors. And as we all know, debit errors is not, we can't totally do with it right now, at least not with the infrastructure we currently have in the country. But how can we better help our agents manage it, right? There's a process. When you've been wrongfully debited, or when you've been debited, the person is not credited. When you've been debited, the funds did not come out. What are you supposed to do? Right? And what do you tell your customers? How do you manage it? Because customers don't want to hear. As far as they are concerned, their money has been debited. And so what do you do? What do they do as a PayCentre agent? So all these questions and more are what we hope that today's webinar answers for you. And in turn, you are able to manage your customers better. And more importantly, you're able to grow your business because conflict is thereby reduced. And you have time to properly educate your customers and also focus on your agent banking business. So thank you. Welcome once again. And thank you to our panelists here today. So just before we go straight to it, okay, I can see quite a number of fingers being raised. I am going to be letting our CMO, that's Ayo Bami, just to give a quick update on PayCentre and just a short welcome speech, really. So let me just check that Ayobami is here. So I'm going to be giving Ayobami access to talk now before we just even go straight into introducing our panelists and then also now go straight into the webinar proper. So Ayobami. Ayobami, I think you have the permission to talk now. So
Hi, hello everyone. Hope everybody can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. Welcome once again to this webinar session, and this is the first of many initiatives we're coming up with in a way to better help our agents and help them ensure that their businesses is running the most ease possible out there. We know that dispense error and dispute errors, is one of the main issues that they face, especially with our industry. Customers, cardholders are very impatient. Most of the time, once they have these errors, they want to be resolved in the quick time, which is one of the reasons why we're having this, so that everybody within our network and hopefully even people outside our network can benefit from this and hopefully be better at it, know how to better manage the customer, know how to better explain to them on the process, on the journey of, this is what you've been debited, or it will take a rising number of days, or don't worry, I'm sure that, if you do this, they come and tell you, I've been to the bank and they're telling me the money is in merchant A or merchant B's place, you know how to respond to those kind of questions. So we are certain that, you know, we've gone out there and we've found people that are very, very competent in this. So you can rest assured that the information you are getting today is very high quality, you know, and that wherever you go, you know, you will be able to utilize this information and, you know, better your own sphere, and also help other people also know better on how to handle situations like this. Like Ura said, as PayCentre, we're always developing. So I know that hopefully, maybe before we wrap up, you know, maybe we would just make out time to just mention one or two things that we might have done over the last couple of months, at least maybe even over the course of this year, that some people are aware of it, some people are not aware of it, but this platform gives us an opportunity to just reiterate it and then to just go over them again and just try and give us highlights on, oh, this is what we have been working on, this, and this is how we've improved over the course of the year. And as always, we are open to suggestions because we believe that we don't know it all. You know, is feedback from our customers, that is our agents, that can help us to develop the best solution out there that any agents would want to use. So we're always open to feedback, you know, and in as much as, yes, it might not be perfect in every instance, you know, but I know that internally that's what we're always striving to do. We're striving to be better. We're striving to create a better environment for our agents, create a better environment for even your own customers. And so as a whole, we're trying to ensure that the solution we put out there is something that every agent will be proud of. You know, they'll be able to say, oh, I use PayCentre, and be comfortable enough to do every type of transaction without worry. Yes, we are not there yet. I know, we are very, very aware of that. And we will not come and tell you that, oh, we have everything figured out. We're still in the process, and we'll continue to improve all our processes, all our features, you know, until we get to that place whereby we can all go to bed every night and wake up knowing full well that the system can run by itself. That is where we're trying to get to, you know. So while we're on this journey, we will always encourage you to continue to give us your opinions and your feedbacks. So I know whether it is good or bad, we take it all. You know, we don't discriminate on opinion or on suggestions, you know. So good, bad, we take it all. We take your feedback, and then we'll try as much as possible to find solutions to these things, so that as a whole, as a community, as a PayCentre community, we all can be happy and we all can go to bed happy. We can wake up every morning eager to work, because we know that the solution that we are provided will work for us and work efficiently. So as we move forward with this, please, if you have questions at any point in time, even if you can always drop a chat, you can drop your messages or your questions. Somebody would take it up and would ensure that we pass it on to the necessary person that can answer that question appropriately. So we might not be able to answer all the questions throughout the whole session, but as many as we can, we'll attend to them. The other ones we can't, I'm sure that Wura and the rest of the team here will find a way to find answers to those things and get them across to you in the near future. So thank you once again for joining us, and have a lovely time.
Okay, thank you very much, Ayobami, for that. And you have all heard him, partner. So yes, I can see that we already have some questions. Please we'll have a time for question and answers. And best believe we are going to try our best to respond to all those questions. However, if you have transaction issues or complaints, please, you can reach out to our social media platforms, support platforms. So that's ESL Help Desk. I'm going to type it here for everyone to see. We have a support team on standby to resolve your issues immediately. So that's ESL Help Desk, E-Settlement Limited Support on Facebook. And then ESL Help Desk on Twitter and Instagram. Let's go Help Desk on Twitter and Instagram. So you can message them right now. They will be able to help you resolve all of your transaction issues. So yeah, I know that before the end of this on Twitter and Instagram, sorry, I'm typing that so that everybody can see it. So yeah, so Ayobami, I understand right now that a number of funds transfer transactions is pending. Our engineers are working tirelessly to have all of that resolved. So if you have pending transactions, best believe they will be resolved soon. Before the end of this webinar, we are going to have a very good update for you regarding that. But thank you once again. Welcome to the PayCentre Africa webinar on debit errors and the dispute resolution process. Just before we proceed, I would like to give a short introduction about our panelists. Currently, we have 5 panelists from different banks and also eSettlement Limited itself. As we all know, eSettlement Limited is the mother brand of PayCentre Africa. So PayCentre Africa is a subsidiary or a product of eSettlement Limited. And at eSettlement Limited, we create financial solutions. So our other products are Cash Envoy and PayPad. Cash Envoy is the online payment gateway, and PayPad is an MPOS provision company, but we however supply that to just banks. So on to meeting our panelists. First on the team, I have Sopuru from eSettlement Limited. So Sopuru Ohalete is the team lead dispute resolution at ESL. So every time there's a transaction, well, there will be time for her to actually give us more details about her role. So let me just run through it. For next is I have Toluwase Adenipekom. She's the Mastercard dispute resolution officer. She works with Access Bank. Welcome Toluwase. She's so lovely to have you here. After that, I have Bola Boko. Is the head merchant services at United Bank for Africa. That's UBA PLC or UBA Group, if you will. Next is Oladapo Olabode. Is the team lead acquiring disputes and chargeback. So I'm guessing that's also like the disputes department. So it's the team lead for that. Also from UBA, that's United Bank for Africa. And last but definitely not the least, we have Akintola Oyewumi, who is the team lead reconciliation and revenue assurance at eSettlement. Thank you all panelists for joining us today, for sharing for agreeing to share from your wealth of knowledge, with all of our agents. Thank you. Happy to have you on board and welcome. So let's go. So this question is open to everyone. So I'll just, like you to quickly give us a brief information about yourself. If there's anything fun you want us to know, let's know it. Give us a brief information about you, and more importantly, what your role at your organization entails. What do you do on a typical day, right? So just give us. I'll be starting from Toluwase. I hope you don't mind. So thank you.
Thank you, Rola. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I can hear you. I hope all of our agents can. So
okay. So I work out of the Settlement and Reconciliation Unit of Access Bank as Mastercard POS Dispute Resolution Officer. So I basically resolve all acquiring issues that has to do with all acquiring dispute issues of Mastercard POS transactions. I assist to resolve any form of dispute that arises from the issuing banks or other individuals who try to use their cards on our terminals. So that's what I do.
Okay, all right. Thank you so very much. I mean, just to clarify, do you also, so if, for example, some of your, customers or any of our agents' customers use Mastercard and there's a debit, error issue, that you will resolve that's part of your day-to-day.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you very much. So, I mean, like I said, I told you we have experts, that will give us, that do this every day. So thank you. Next, I have Akitola. Akitola, can you just quickly, if there's anything more you want to tell us about yourself other than what I've said, I don't know all, and also about your role at eSettlement Limited. That's Akintola or Oyewumi.
Basically, like you mentioned, reconciliation and revenue assurance. We get to see customers' complaints so that we can be proactive to see that we can make refunds before they actually complain. So to make customer be delighted on their transactions. So those are basically the summary as regards to the customer.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Akintola, for that. Hopefully, from this we can get more insights on how we can satisfy our agents and their customers. So Oladapo, can you, go next? Oladapo Olabode. So don't forget, I think you may be speaking, but your mic is muted. Dapo.
Yeah. So good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good afternoon, everybody. Okay. Yeah. Like you rightly did the introduction, I oversee a team that handles our acquired chargebacks, transactions done across used by transactions, chargebacks raised against all cards, Mastercard, Visa, and Verve, across all the dispute portals. Yes. So I oversee a team that reviews and attends to those chargebacks.
Okay. All right. So
thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So if I understand you, your team actually resolves Dapo. I hope you're still here with me.
Yes,
so I just want to clarify, your team, resolves debit error disputes as well, right? At
yes,
UBA.
on our terminals. Okay. Card holders, yes.
All right, thank you very much. So Bolabo, I don't know if Bolabo is still here. So Bolabo, can you quickly run us through any other information you want us to know and what your day-to-day entails at your organization?
Okay, thanks so much. Can you hear me?
Your voice is a bit, we can hear you, but it's pretty low.
Oh, really? Hello, what about now? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Is it much better now?
Yes,
much better. Okay, so thanks so much for this opportunity. It's actually quite an honor to be on this panel with my other experts in the industry as well. My name is Kosi Merchant Services in UBA, talking about the entire merchant acquiring business across the UBA group. In terms of my core functions, so what I basically do is that I help merchants find solutions that enables them move their business from a cash-based business to a digital-based business. So offering solutions like the POS, online payment, USSD, QR code, things of that sort is what I actually help to drive in UBA. And, because this business, even though it's the business aspect, it relies a lot on some operational aspects too as well. So that's where the dispute and chargeback comes in. So I have extensive experience in that field as well, because without those things properly structured, it will have a major impact on the business as well. So that's why I come in.
Okay, thank you very much, Bolabo, for that. And on to you, Sokuru. Just before we go, can you just quickly tell us about your role at ESL and what you do?
Okay, hi, good afternoon. My name is Sokuru. I currently work with a team of dedicated people in ESL to resolve issues revolving around bills payments, cash out, and fund transfer disputes. So that's putting it in simple terms.
All right, thank you very much, Sokuru. So nice to have you back. So nice to have you, on the webinar, to share your knowledge with the agent. So, I want to start with, let me start with Oladapo. Can you take us through, the debit? I like that your team works with the dispute resolution, like what your team does at UBA. So what's the process like? If a customer comes to complain at the bank, like, okay, I tried to do a transaction, I got, I was debited, but I was not credited. So what will your team do in this instance? What information should the customer provide? What's the process?
Okay, I would run you through that, but basically I oversee acquiring, but to an extent I have idea of what is being done on the issuing desk. Issuing desk covers transactions done by our bank card holders on other banks' terminal. Okay. So basically, when a customer comes to complain, it goes to the nearest branch. Okay. His account is reviewed to be sure a reversal had not occurred.
Okay.
So he confirms the date he did the transaction and the amount involved. So if it's certain that the transaction did not reverse, be it POS, be it ATM, then there's an in-house portal where the transaction details will be logged. So once it's logged, our own team, that's the chargeback team, would now do a download. Then it will be logged on the respective dispute portal, be it Extra Switch, be it GPDM, or on Mastercard, SMTM. So once it's logged, the acquiring bank gets notified that XYZ transaction was done on your terminal on ABC date. Confirm if it was successful or it failed. So the issuing bank, if it's for ATM, issuing bank they have 24 hours. If it's for POS, they have 48 hours.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. So if I understand you, once someone comes to complain at the bank, you check the person's status, transaction details first, or the bank statement to be sure that the reversal has not automatically been done back.
Yes.
Then you do your investigations.
Yes.
Really, and this takes at most 3 working days. Right.
Yeah. The day the customer comes to complain is noted as day 0.
Okay.
So the moment the chargeback team logs it on the dispute portal, be it Mastercard's SMTM or for Verve on Extra Switch, then for Visa on UPDM.
Okay.
So whichever of the dispute portals is logged on, from the day it is logged, it starts from the moment it's logged, it start counting.
Okay. So start counting from that.
Start reading against the acquirer, yes.
All right. Thank you so very much for clarifying that. So let me just quickly get to Toluwaseun real quick. Since you are also from another bank, can you quickly put us through, what the disputes resolution process is in your organization, especially regarding, like you said, the Mastercard that you provide service for?
Okay, thank you, Ra. So just like Oladapo earlier said, it's almost the same process. When a card holder experiences a dispense error, what usually happens is that he or she gets debited without getting value. And of course, the next thing to do is to make a complaint. So you can lodge your complaint. You can lodge it probably via the ATM machine, or you can log it on the bank's website, or you can call the contact center or visit a branch, which is very conventional. So you visit a branch and then you fill a form that's like a dispense error reimbursement request form. So you fill it, and there's this very important detail that has to be in that form, which is your card, your maxed card PAN. It's your card number, but just the first 6 and the last 4 digits of your card number in that form. Okay, and then of course the transaction date, the amount, and all those details. Now that detail is used by the issuing side of the bank. Now, if of course you come to lodge your complaints because you use an access card, you use an access debit card, so you lodge your complaints at access, and then this is lodged on whatever platform. So I'm going to just focus on Mastercard. Now, if it's a Mastercard transaction, it is logged on SMTM. Like Oladapo also said, the day you make your complaints, that's not the day it starts counting. In fact, we don't even entertain, we don't basically start reviewing your transaction from that day, because we give it like 24 hours, because there could be a reversal. There could be a reversal directly from the scheme. So it's given at least 24 hours to see it, then that is now logged on SMTM, and that drops on the acquiring side. So if, for example, that transaction was carried out on a UBA's terminal, UBA will get that request, that chargeback request, you know, with all the details for it, and then that's what happens.
Thank you very much. So I love that you mentioned, you know, some important details that must be on your form when you go to the bank to fill a dispense error form. Is there any other thing that should be there? So the max pan, I'm guessing, is the first 6 digits of your on your ATM card and the last 4 digits on your ATM card.
Exactly.
What other information is required? So if our agents are telling their customers, for example, you know, go to the bank to fill, what details should they tell their customers to provide at the bank to enable you investigate properly?
Okay, so we need the exact date. So he has to also state the exact date. However, when we try to log this on SMTM, there's something that the system also does, because the system also takes records of all these transactions that have occurred. So it pops up the exact date and time. But we need our customers to also tell us, oh, this was the date that this actually happened. Then the exact amount that was transacted. This also pops up on the portals. So the portal will also let you know the exact amount that's associated to this particular transaction. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. So, Sopuru, let me come to you. I mean, we've heard from the banks, from the bank's representatives. Let's now come to the agents network. What is the disputes resolution process at ESL? How does it work? Even I understand, I mean, because I also work at ESL, I know that agents as well. So when debit error occurs on our platform, there are 2 options. The agent can as well also complain to get their money back, right? And the customer can also go to their bank. So can you put us through, since we rarely interact with the customers, we interact with the agents. So can you just put our agents here through what happens when they log a transaction, a failed or debit error transaction disputes, based on your work?
Okay. All right. So for a cash out dispense error, so when you get error code but you are debited, the agents are advised to immediately log as dispute on our application. So in the case whereby they are not able to log it as dispute, they are to advise the customer to go to the bank to fill the dispense error form. So, or if they don't log it within the time, so we have a time limit, the 48-hour time limit for them to log as dispute. So if they don't log it within that time frame and they go to the bank, so the bank will have to send us a mail for confirmation. So if the transaction actually failed on our end and we were settled for it, we'll tell the bank to reverse the transaction. But if it was a successful transaction, yes, to reverse it back to the customer. But if it was a successful transaction, we would send them the receipt of the successful transaction so that they will not reverse the transaction since it was successful. So that is how we.
So what happens in a case where so what I would like to know, what I really want to know is, if the agent logs it, let's say there's a debit error and the agent logs it, immediately it happens. What are the steps that your team takes when they get that information?
Okay, so when it's logged as dispute, it takes 24 hours for like the next day for us to get a report from the bank for all our settled transactions. So it is the settlement report is automatically uploaded on our portal. So when it is uploaded by the reconciliation team, it automatically settles the ones that were settled for. So we credit back the agents for those transactions.
Okay. So I just want to I want to ensure that our agents they are following this properly. So in cases where an agent logs a debit error as dispute, and then in 24 hours we get the settlement report from the banks, and then we can see that, oh, this money was actually settled to us, we will settle it back to our agent's purses.
Yes, we will.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
But if we're not settled for it, what happens next?
So if we're not settled for it, the dispute is closed. So we don't settle the agent for the transaction that we were not settled for. So the agent is to advise the customer to go to the bank to fill a dispense error form. Then the bank will take it up from there.
All right, great. Thank you so very much. So, I mean, we've heard from the different institutions. So for the banks, if you have a debit error that occurred for your customer, either for yourself or even your customer, you go to the bank, ensure that when you are filling the form, you fill the max and PAN information. That's the first 6 digits of your card, the last 4 digits of your card. You ensure you give them the accurate date, because some people can even go and fill a dispense error for maybe like 2 weeks after it happened, and then you wait for the bank to get back to you. So Oluwaseun and other have put us through, the process of when they get this information, what they have to do. And so Puru, I mean, for the agent, has also given us an inkling into how, dispute works on an agent banking network. So if you as an agent, you log dispute as transaction, so we wait from the bank. So the banks confirm that, okay, yeah, this money, even though you didn't get credit it to your agent post, because where the debit error occurs on our head for the most part is that maybe the agent does the transaction and gets error occurred, right? And the customer is debited. And when an agent gets error occurred, the agent's post is not credited. So if the banks confirm that, we go ahead and credit the agent. But if the bank says, oh yeah, it was a truly failed transaction, we are not crediting your account, we advise, PayCentre advises the agent, okay, kindly tell your customer to go to their respective bank and fill the dispense error form. So I mean, we know this seems simple enough, but there's still a lot of issues with it, right? So, and that's why we are here, just to clarify a lot of things. So just before we move on to the next question, Akitola, you are the revenue assurance, at ESL, but beyond that, you also liaise with like a lot of, like you said, different bodies in this our space and industry. Is there an industry or design dispute process, right? So we have people that regulate us, right? That regulate our transactions as financial technology companies in Nigeria. And even we have other bodies too, like CBN and all of that, that regulates all of our even financial transactions as banks, as everyone in every financial institution in Nigeria. So is there a laid down process from any of our regulators that, guides how banks, agents, both banks or both agent banking network, or how we resolve debit errors? So is there a guideline or a dispute process for this? And can you put us, if you're speaking?
There's a guideline for resolution of disputes. So for POS, which is peculiar to
your voice is breaking for a bit.
Should be resolved within 72 hours. That's 3 working days. So for us as
sorry, we can't. I don't know if I'm the only one that can't properly hear Akitola. I think you might need to retake the entire question.
Okay, let me try.
We can't really hear you. Yes.
So for us as PayCentre, we've tried to is treated. Okay. Can you hear me now? Is it better now?
Your voice is somehow being drawn out. Yeah, I can hear you now, but it was being drawn out before.
Hello. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So I'm guessing Akitola dropped off due to network issues, but pending when he gets back, I mean, we can just proceed. So Bolabo, I don't know if you can help us. You design solutions with merchants, different organizations, basically. Can we know, what causes a dispense error or a debit error what are some of the things that causes the debit error? Like, why does it even occur? Is it network? You know, what are some of the causes? I don't know if this is something you can help us with.
Okay, thanks, Wura.
Oh, Akitola is back.
Okay,
Yeah,
Akintola
Akitola,
is,
once Bolabo is done, we'll come back to you.
okay, I don't, okay, I would want to speak to Akintola's um,
Oh,
response, in case
that would
it's
be
not.
great. Please, you can do that then, you
Okay,
know.
so let me try and just latch on that a bit. Yeah. So the way the payment system works today, a lot of things are a bit disjointed. I'll be honest with you. Some things are not that straightforward. So sometimes it's
Okay.
difficult for you to find a proper structured document that addresses everything. Now, but the
Okay.
originating point is this. The actual dispute process itself, the framework is actually designed by the card scheme. So when I mean card scheme here, I'm talking about Visa card, I'm talking about Mastercard, I'm talking about
Okay.
Debit card. So this card scheme specifically has a framework that actually, can you hear me?
Yes,
Somebody saying
yes.
you can't hear me. Okay. So
Oh,
the
yeah, I
card,
can. Oh, it was low before, but it's
yeah.
better now.
Okay, yeah. So this card scheme actually has a framework that actually helps them address issues of disputes and chargeback on their particular cards. Are you following me? So Visa has one, a Mastercard
Okay.
has one, Webcard has one. Clear on that. Now, I know they are private institution, they make money, they are
Institutions,
profit
yeah.
making institution, exactly. Now, riding on that, the CBN on its own, because some of these things, because Visa, Mastercard, they are international card schemes. So some things that play on international market might not necessarily play well in the local market. So CBN actually has a framework that rides on the framework that's developed by the card scheme to try and localize it to our local market. You understand? So they
Yeah.
picked out some things that, that if you apply it in Nigeria may not necessarily make sense, but it may be good for international payment. So they picked some things out of the Visa Mastercard framework and try to localize it. So that's the one we have locally that tend to regulate local payment, chargeback, and disputes. So in compliance in that framework, so there we now have people like InterSwitch and people like Unified Payments that now provides the platform that works in accordance with the CPN guideline. I think initially at some point in time, maybe sometime last, I can't remember precisely, and the dispute timeline used to be, I think, about 5 working days, if my memory serves me correctly. But I know CBN actually revised it downward. I think it was sometime this year to about, is it this year, maybe late last year, I can't remember precisely.
So sorry,
So
early this year. It was around June this year.
okay, early this year. They now
Yes,
revised
around June.
that. Yeah, exactly. So they now revised that timeline downward to 24. That's 24 hours for ATM and then 48 hours for POS transaction.
Yes.
So in compliance with that, the processor, which is Unified Payment and InterSwitch, now had to readjust their own platform, which bank used to log this with today, to readjust their own platform to align with that CBN mandate. So basically, that's the way it works in the summary. But international payment
Yes.
don't work with that accordance. This is just for local payments here in Nigeria. So that's all. That's in a summary for that. Now, in the question you raised, can you hear me, Ura?
Yes, yes, I
Okay,
can.
okay.
I can, sir.
Now, in the question you raised specifically on why dispute
Debit
occurs,
errors, yeah.
debit error occurs. So I will just give you a straight point answer. And so dispute or debit error is actually, okay, let me say the dispute itself, because the debit error that leads to dispute, while you are now disputing a transaction.
Yeah.
It's something that it's not that it's totally unique to the Nigerian environment. Even outside the countries, I mean, you log dispute and things like that, but the way that you log it for a different reason. You understand? Most of the time in abroad, when you log a dispute, is it that maybe you bought a good, you didn't like the good, you return the good item, and then you now log a dispute to refund, for a refund. But in Nigeria, it's a bit different. The main purpose, in fact, 99% of why people log disputes is because of debit, or call it, or dispensary. Basically, that transaction failed
Business
at
error,
the point of
yeah.
attempting the transaction. And this is what actually causes it, particularly referencing to a POS transaction. POS today, there are about 5 touch points on
Okay.
for a POS transactions from end to conclusion. So you start a transaction concludes, you get a printout of a POS receipt or whatever. There are 5 touch points, that the transaction goes through before you get a successful transaction. So the first point is when a cardholder puts a card on the terminal. So the terminal is the first touch point. When he inputs his PIN, he inputs enter, that transaction goes from the terminal to NIPS. So NIPS is the second touch point, right? So NIPS is like an aggregator for all PS transactions in Nigeria. Every transaction passes through NIPS. NIPS is Nigerian Interbank Settlement System. So NIPS gets that transaction, looks at the transaction, and sends it to the third touch point, which is what we call the processor. So the processor here is actually InterSwitch or Unified Payment. It depends how your bank has set up your terminal for processing. So some banks might set you for Unified Payment, some banks might set you for InterSwitch. So what is the bank that have that right to set up that terminal in that manner? So NIPS send that transactions to the processor. That's the third touch point. From the processor, it goes to the fourth touch point, which is actually the card scheme. That's Visa card, Mastercard, or Verve card, because all transactions to a large extent, they need to have visibility over how their cards are being used in a particular industry, in the particular environment and things like that. So that's the first touch point. And then lastly, when the card scheme, where either Visa or Mastercard gets that transaction, they send it to the issuing bank. So the bank that has issued that card that was used on the terminal, so it can be an Access Bank, it can be GT Bank card, they send that information to the issuing bank to authorize that transaction be let go so that they can issue a receipt at the point of the terminal. So at the point it gets to issuing bank is where you, the customer, gets a debit alert. Are you following me? So you get a debit alert because they get information from this the card scheme at that point in time. Oh, transaction, oh, there's enough money in your account. They debit you, but you get debit alert immediately. Now, when you get that debit alert, the issuing bank now sends the information back the same way it came. So from the issuing bank, it goes to the card scheme. The card scheme, oh, transaction is successful. From there, it goes to the processor. Processor, oh, transaction is successful. From there, it goes to NIPS. And then from NIPS, it goes to the terminal. And the terminal, you now see, oh,
hello, Bala. Okay, I think your network ceased for a bit. Hello, Bolabo.
Transaction approved.
A terminal has a time frame of 60 seconds. If within 60 seconds, the terminal does not get an authenticated transaction from NIPS, it automatically prints a declined receipt. Are you following me? So basically what has happened is that when can you hear me? I need to be sure you can still hear me.
We couldn't hear you for a bit.
Okay. Okay, it was some people were trying to reach out to me. Okay, so I was trying to say that so the terminal has a lifespan of 60 seconds, right? Transaction are sent from the terminal down to the issuing bank. Now, in the process of issuing bank sending that communication back to the terminal, if there's a delay in network, either between the issuing bank or the casting of the processor or the processor to NIPS, if there's a delay in communication, if they are not able to make the terminal within the 60-second timeline, automatically that transaction is printed as declined. But don't forget, the cardholder has already been debited. So that's basically what creates a dispense error that you see that people normally experience on the terminal. So it's basically delay in network communication between one touch point and another touch point. And then the terminal prints decline, but unfortunately, the cardholder has already been debited. So I don't know if that actually helps to clarify
wow, I mean, it's really did. Thank you so very much. I mean, I love that you broke down the entire everything involved. I didn't even know all of this, and I think it will help our agents understand a bit more. So what I want to know, thank you that you already started on this train. So in case where it gets reversed immediately, is it that was the response quick then or then? So what happens when some get, why do some get errors?
Okay, so this is why exactly. So this is what happens, right? So I've explained the first phase, right? Terminal gets declined, cardholder is debited, but the terminal prints a declined receipt. Now, this is what is actually meant to happen automatically.
We can't hear you, so I'm hoping.
So for auto reversal, also go through the same channel from the terminal to NIBS, from NIBS to the processor, from processor to the card scheme, and then to Issuing Bank to now refund that particular customer if the debit had happened initially. It just happens on ATMs too as well. But what happens is that sometimes those auto reversal communication fails. So you see that sometimes the POS terminal will send it, some will get reverse successful, sometimes you don't get your reversal within 24 hours. In that case, you have to go and manually log it. So that is just a failure basically within the process. Ideally, the terminal is set up to actually send auto reversal. But because of the failure of that, it doesn't send the auto reversal. That's why some people don't actually get those funds back into their account. So that's basically what transpires.
All right, thank you so very much, Bolabo. I mean, like some of the feedback we are even seeing, some agents are saying they are loving the explanation. So I love that now we all know that, the reason why debit errors, of course, is because of the lack of communication. So there are 5 touch points that each, for a transaction to go through, the communication must be made and completed. So where there's a part where, one of the touch points, maybe there's a delay in communication, or there's a lack of communication, a debit error then occur. And as such, for debit error to be automatically reversed, it also needs this same communication. So when there's also a delay, then it doesn't get reversed immediately. You have to go to the bank and so on and so forth. Thank you so very much, Bolabo, for that very, deep and precise explanation. So, now that debit error has occurred, I know we've mentioned one major way for it to be resolved. Number one is they immediately get automatic reversal. But when there's no automatic reversal, so let me come to Sopuru here now. When I know you've mentioned this before, what PayCentre does in trying to help the agents, but okay, sorry. What next? Okay, how can it be resolved? So my next question here is actually following up on debit error. Like, okay, why does it occur and how can it be resolved? You've given us some insights into what the agents can do. Now, can you explain further what the customer can do? So why do you tell the agent to tell the customer to go to the bank? Right? Does this work? What's the feedback you've gotten in that instance? Like, so when the agent logs a dispute for a debit error and we find out that, okay, this transaction, we don't have it, we can't credit the agent's post. Why do we tell them to tell their customers to go to the bank? What are some of the feedback we've gotten based on this? Like, does it work? Basically, that's what I want to know.
If I get your question correctly, so you're talking about when we're not ready for the transaction,
yes,
and we tell them to go to the bank to
tell the customers, yeah.
To the best of my knowledge, I kind of think it works because we've not gotten complaints about the ones that we tell to go to the bank for the ones that we're not settled for. But the ones that we are actually having some issues are the ones that they've gone to the bank and the bank has sent us a mail and we've given authorization that the bank should debit us and credit back the customer. So the customer will come back a few days later to say that they went to the bank and the bank is saying the money is with PayCentre. Meanwhile, we've already authorized the reversal to occur back to the customer's account. So that is so we now have to start sending mails to reopen the claim for them to look into it. So they will say, so I also want to know why that happens, why we would, when we send the mails to the bank and we have to now resend another mail to reopen the claim when the customers come back to say they've not gotten the money. Meanwhile, we've authorized them to debit our accounts. In most cases, they've already even debited our accounts and they are supposed to credit the customer's account, but there's always something missing in that leg because the customers keep coming back to complain.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Sopuru. I mean, thank you for starting that conversation because we're already getting, some questions of such from our agency, and I'm going to move to both Dapo, Bolabo, and Toluwaṣe since they are from the bank soon. But just before we go on. I would like to throw this question again to, Akintola. Same question. I want him to, contribute, add on to what you've said. So Akintola, can you, help us shed more light on, what happens? Okay, we get it. We've said transaction is closed. We send customer to the bank. Do we have any feedback? What do we expect to happen? Right. So Peru has given us some inkling. So can you help with more information?
Normally when dispute happens like that, we get chargeback notifications from the bank. And then when there are responses from us, the bank passes debit to our position. So the normal process for those disputes is for the bank to refund the cardholders. So they're debited for disputes, and cardholders have not still gotten the funds. But cases like this, it happens for acquiring banks. So most of the time, the acquiring bank, that means the bank said they sent the funds to the issuing bank, to the cardholders bank. But the cardholders bank, for one reason or the other, they've not credited the cardholder. So such transactions, we still need to follow up with the acquiring bank, to follow up with the cardholders bank to make sure that the cardholder is credited. But the problem is that the cardholders, they do not understand the process that, the fund is with the banks. So that it's only the bank is holding their funds.
Okay, Akintola, I think we lost you for a bit there. Okay.
Accounts supposed to be credited. So we are. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes,
so,
yes.
Some of the transactions. So some of the transactions are not settled to us. We have some common errors that the transaction will naturally not come to us. So for those common errors, like usual switching operating, there are so many of those errors. Like once they occur, they are majorly issuer decline. That means the cardholder bank actually turn down the transaction. Processor is trying to process the transaction. The cardholder bank try to turn down the transaction. So what it means is that those kind of transactions, the beneficiary, the cardholder, supposed to get instant reversals for them. But maybe for one reason or the other, those funds test to stay in the cardholder's GL, their bank's GL. They don't refund them. The to come and complain before customers to the bank. Transactions will give feedback to the bank, and the bank has not credited the cardholder back. We get to follow up with the banks again to make sure that the cardholder is credited. The cardholders are most of the time impatient. They don't get to understand that the credit is already with their bank, and it's the bank that is holding the credit that have not credited them. So we bank to follow up with this issuing bank, this cardholders bank, to ensure that they get credited. But the follow-up actually does not bring instant response. It might take some days, might take 2 days or 3 days before the cardholders get credited at the end of the day.
All right, thank you very much, Akintola. I mean, so if I understand you correctly, and anyone, please feel free to confirm what I'm about to say now. So when a debit error, because apart from maybe the one that we can do on our end, where maybe we can credit an agent, as an agent banking network, we cannot credit the customer, only the customer's bank. So if it's true whereby we've informed the customer, you know, go to the bank, or even the agent self just tells the customer goes to the bank, it is only the customer's bank that can credit the customer back for a cash out debit error. Right? I want to be clear on that. Sokuru, Akitola,
Yes.
yeah, okay. Olabo,
Hello?
you want to take this? Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I am. I'm okay. Sorry, hold on. Let me. Okay, yes. I mean, to a large extent, what you have said is quite spot on. I will just try and see if I can just flesh it up a bit for people's understanding. So, the way money moves in bank today, right, is not really as people perceive it to move. So what do I mean? I'm UBA today. I can't just walk into GT Bank to create a customer's account, or walk into Access Bank to deduct money from a customer's account. It doesn't really work that way. So the process is this. Every bank in Nigeria today has what we call CBN position. So every bank in Nigeria has an account with the central bank, right? As long as you are a money deposit bank in Nigeria, the CBN opens an account for you and there's funds in those accounts, right? Now, we now have what we call intermediaries, what we call like processors. They're popularly InterSwitch and Unified Payment. They are the two key processors we have in the country today. There are a couple of others, smaller ones, but the major one that carries about 90 to 95% of the market share today, InterSwitch and Unified Payment. Now, they are the ones that help the movement of these funds. What happens? So, for instance, now, if I want to pass money from UBA to a merchant's account, a customer's account in GT Bank, what happens is that I give authorization to InterSwitch or to Unified Payment to debit my account with CBN, debit my position with CBN. There will be a schedule, a list, or a schedule, or a report, or whatever that follows that debit my position, and credit the position of GT Bank in CBN. Are you following me? So what that switch will do is that they will, with that report from UBA, they would send a detailed, they send the data to CBN. Oh, CBN, debit, we have instruction, debit the account of UBA, credit the account of Access Bank or GT Bank. This is the report that accompanies that debit, that sums up to that total amount. So when my position is debit and the position of the issuing bank is credited, that report is now forwarded to the issuing bank as well. So that report, the amount in that report must tally to the credit in their position, right? And with that data, they can now say, okay, this is the fund that is meant for my own customer, for me to credit my customer's position. They now take that information and then they debit their CBN position and credit their customer's account. So what we have sometimes that tends to lead to delays, or maybe you say there's a reversal that has not been applied or things like that, is that it's very possible that the acquiring bank has given instruction to the processor. Oh, processor, debit my position. GT Bank is saying this fund is meant to be credited to its customer's position. Debit my position. This is the report. They debit my position. They credit the position of the bank, but the bank itself is not meant to apply those funds to his customer's account. So if you come back to meet me, UBA, say, UBA, my customer in GT Bank has not been credited. You keep asking why. Don't forget, that money is not with me. I don't have the authority to credit the account of GT Bank. GT Bank are the ones that will take the data and use it to credit their customer's account. So the best you can do in those concerns is just to follow up. But we can't, we can't carry out that effective credit into the customer's account. So that's basically where you have challenges or delays at times, is that the issuing bank has the data, they've not credited their customer. The money is in their position, but they need to now credit, their customer, the account of their customer to nil of exactly. Yeah, so that's basically what transpired at times.
Yeah, thank you so very much. I mean, I love that we've even got in here. So this is to Toluwase and Oladapo. Now, just to buffer what Bolabo has said. So we have situations whereby, we've told the customer, like there's even an agent that gave that example there, that when the customer goes to the bank, why does the bank tell the customer that the transaction is successful? if we have now established here now that if a customer comes to fill dispense error form, the customer's bank is meant to, even if the money is with maybe PayCentre or is it another bank, right? The bank is meant to recall that money. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just saying this from the information we've gotten from our panelists. So the bank is meant to recall that money, right, from whoever is with, even if the money is not with the bank, right, and then credit the customer. But there's so many situations, and even a lot of our agents, are here given that scenario that they will tell their customers, okay, customer, go to bank, fill dispense error. The customer will come back and say, my bank said the money is with PayCentre. So can you tell us, why does this happen? And now that we've established that it's even only the bank that can still credit, once a complaint has been made, right, the bank should request the money. Maybe the bank needs to communicate better to the customer that, okay, these people have not responded to us, so it will take so to respond and get your money back. But why does the bank tell them this money is success, the transaction you are debited, the money is with whoever it went to, and we can't get? Can you give us an an insight into that?
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
So I think what basically happens is that in a situation where a particular transaction was a failed transaction and it was reason whatsoever by the acquirer. Now, what shows on the issuing side, there are many parties to this disputed transactions. Now, what shows on the issuing side is that they do not have the money and that the acquirer has been credited for it. So on their side, it's showing a debit. On the acquirer side, it's showing a credit. So they reach out to us. Now, when the customer comes to the issuer, which is his own bank, to make that complaint, and what the issuer does is to check exactly where the credit is, and he finds out that the credit is with the acquirer. So he could say something like, oh, maybe that's when they give that response that the money is with your agent or your merchant, or as the case may be, or the money is with PayCentre. I think that is the reason why they give that response. But what is exactly supposed to happen at that point is they're supposed to reach out or liaise with the acquiring bank, asking exactly what is the status of this fund, so that they can be able to give the customer the accurate answer. So I think just like I think I wouldn't know who gave that exact explanation. Most of the time, money is not with the bank. The bank might have already given the processor or the scheme the instruction that, okay, I'm processing a reversal back to the issuing bank, so that the issuing bank can now credit the cardholder. Now, if the acquiring bank processes a reversal to the issuing bank's position, it's left for the issuing bank to liaise with the scheme to know exactly where they were credited, so that they can now credit the cardholder. But referring the cardholder back to PayCentre, or referring the cardholder back to the agent would not resolve the dispute, because you made mention of something earlier that was it Sopuru that said that most of the time what happens is that PayCentre might have already been debited for that transaction, and so that transaction is no longer in their position. Yes, that is exactly what happens. You've already been debited for it, and that shows that it is no longer with you. It is now with the issuing bank, and the issuing bank is to credit their cardholder for the disputed fund.
All right, thank you very much, Toluwashe. So, sometimes the delay or the miscommunication is just, like, there are just a lot of parties involved, basically. And I think patience is key, right, for everyone, because, when someone comes to complain, you have to ask, you have to do so much investigation. Just before I go to that part, maybe give us an idea into how they work it in UBA. Is there a set time? So if someone comes to complain, comes to fill a dispense error form, right? And what's the timeline of, okay, maybe get back to issuer, get back to acquiring bank, get back to dispensing bank? What is the general timeline, to having all of this resolved? Is that something you can help us with?
Yeah. Should I take that?
Yes, please. Tolu seems to talk.
Okay. For POS transactions, before now, it used to be 72 hours, and ATM used to be 48 hours. But CBN reviewed and reduced the TAT to 48 hours. So the 48 hours now entails, let me say, end to end. That's from the moment the issuer logs it on the dispute portal to the moment from the moment the issuer logs on dispute portal, which involves the processor as well, to when the acquirer resolves. So this 48 hours now has to do with the issuer, the processor, and the acquirer. So these three parties have 48 hours to resolve. So what that means is a customer comes into a bank today being Wednesday, he comes to complain. The issue is the claim dispute is logged on the dispute portal, say tomorrow, being Thursday. So between Thursday, Friday, everything has to have been concluded by the acquiring bank, the processor, and the issuer. So all things being equal, by Monday, Tuesday morning at the latest, the customer ought to have been Monday, the settlement, the issuing bank should have gotten the fund if the acquirer is accepting it. So it's now left to the issuer to now, I wouldn't know how it's been done. Maybe they do their review and they credit the card holder. They could do it same day, that will be at close of business, or the next morning, depending on whatever, if everything goes fine, Monday. But maybe there's a challenge or something, the settlement reports, or, there could be a technical challenge. So some delays might have occurred. So latest by Tuesday morning, the card holder is supposed to have been refunded.
Okay. Thank you.
So that's how it works.
Okay, thank you, Dapo. So is it safe to say, okay, like within 7 working days, is that a fair estimate to give for like, okay, I go to the bank, to complain about a dispense error to when I will get credited back for my money? Is that a safe estimate, to give customers? Because, we are trying to help our agents better manage the customers. We don't want to show whereby the customer has gone to the bank today now to dispenser, then the next day is that the customers, they've not given back the money, my money, PayCentre, that kind of thing. So is that something that our agents can, tell their customers, maybe like, okay, let's wait. Based on what, PayCentre has told me, and based on my understanding of the bank's process to an extent, you should be credited within so.
Yeah, if the merchant is giving the card holder 7 days, I believe the merchant is just trying to buy time, that just in case. And maybe the merchant is just trying to factor in the unforeseen circumstances, yes. So, but for me, I believe within 4 to 5 days, everything ought to have been resolved.
All right.
4 to 5 days. Then sometimes what really happens is, depending on the volume the acquirer has, every dispute portal has a TAT. Yeah. So for POS is 48 hours as set by the processor. So some transactions, when the acquirer has seen that transaction failed, or maybe the merchant didn't respond, meaning, yes, I've seen it failed, so leave it, return the money. So the acquirer, sometimes we do not go to accept the dispute. We just leave it to default. Okay. Leaving it to default means the fund will only reverse after 48 hours. Do you understand? But maybe within 24 hours, if the merchant is able to confirm, okay, he failed, return the money, and we now start going to the portal to accept. Yes, we can now say within 48, 72 hours, the dispute will be resolved. But given that there's much volume, and we'll definitely put preference on successful transaction over failed transactions, You can have successful transactions you are supposed to decline, and you'll be running after failed that you are trying to accept. We would rather leave those ones to default as set by the system, and focus on the ones we are supposed to decline. That's the ones that merchants have availed proofs for. So decline and like, okay, this transaction was successful.
Okay, I think all that was network is season for a bit. Can you hear me? Okay. All that was network. I mean, pending where when the network comes back stronger. I have a question here that I just want to quickly ask.
Then we've seen some instances where one or two merchants.
Hello.
I can hear you well.
Yeah, so your network seems to have, let me just, mention there. So,
yes, I can hear you.
Okay, yes, I can hear you. So, I want to direct this to Bolabo and Toluwase because, again, they're from the bank. When a customer comes to fill a dispensary form, are they required to provide debit alerts? Because I have a question here that says, okay, the customer didn't get a debit alert. But when we went to check his account balance, he saw that the fund had been deducted. So is this a requirement? And then the agent says, when the customer now went to the bank sent the customer back to us that the money is with us. And the customer came because it seemed like he didn't have evidence of the debit in court. So are they required to provide debit alert when customers come to fill dispensary form?
So when customers come to fill dispense error form, they are not necessarily required to give a debit extract or a debit alert. No, so for example, customers that don't even get debit alerts probably on their phones or something. So what we do on our end is to check their accounts. But the truth is, whether the transaction was failed or successful, card holder will be debited. So if you come to lodge a chargeback, chargebacks are not only lodged because you got debited, and then there are many reasons for lodging a chargeback.
Even fraud, right? Or something.
So yes, exactly. So you could lodge your chargeback log is accepted. When you come to fill a dispense error form, it is logged. So there'll always be a debit. Even if it was a successful transaction, you'll be debited. If it was failed, you'll be debited. So
okay, all right. Thank you very much, Toluwase, for clarifying that up. And just to go on, must I fill a dispensary form? That's what I want to know. Like, what if I come, just lay my complaint and the person enters it? Must they fill form? Because what we realize is, and this is coming from working in PayCentre. So a lot of the time, when our agents come and complain, my customer was debited, we now ask them, please, do your customer fill a dispensary form when they get it back? They say, no, my customer just went to their bank to complain. So it seems a lot of them do not go. So we now ask them, okay, did the bank give you the form to fill? They say no. Some of them even call. They will say they called and the bank said, oh, they checked their account. So what is the importance? Like, how important is filling a dispensary form in resolving, debit issues? And I'm throwing this out to, our panelists from the banks, because you are the ones that the customers come to. So how key is it? And what exactly is the process? Is it possible for, a dispute to be logged online or via call? Like, will it really enter that your log system that you said? Or is it when they fill that form that it now gets logged? So.
Yeah, can I take that?
Yeah, sure, please. That was,
okay, you could visit a branch to fill a form. You could place a call through to the customer center. Okay, and there are also apps that some banks have, which we are also trying to bring on board, where you can log your complaints. But the bottom line is there has to be an officer or a system in place that will pull all these informations either from from the working customer who went to the branch or the person who called in. Or the person who's, and logged his dispute. So somebody just has to harvest all those informations and make them available on the dispute portal. The bottom line is that those disputes have to be provided, have to be provisioned on the dispute portal for response to be availed by the acquirer. So if everything goes well, say like the person goes to the bank, the person goes to his bank to make that complaint, it is expected that maybe at close of business, the customer desk, the desk officer logs into their whatever application that they have and files those complaints on behalf of the customer. So likewise, the contact center, maybe at close of business, the person now pulls all the information he or she has gathered from the customers who called in and log them on the portal. Then likewise, the application. So I wouldn't know how it runs. Maybe it's looped into a customer's, a desk customer service officer's system, such that as they are logging, the desk officer can pull those information. But bottom line is TAT starts counting from the time those disputes hits the dispute portal, not from the time the customer goes to his or her bank to complain.
Okay, to complain. But what I want to confirm is, if a customer, because the reason I'm asking this to an extent, because something I experienced. So I did a transaction on my app, right? I got debited and the person was like, they didn't get credited. It actually showed failed, but I got debited. So I just assumed the person got credited. Then I disputed it on my application, right? Not your bank, by the way. And I was informed the next day that this debit is successful, right? That transaction was successful. Even though it was showing failed though, right? So I just assumed the person, but the person kept on calling me that they even went to their bank, they didn't get it. So I now said, okay, since the application dispute did not help me resolve it, I now went to the bank myself and I filled the form. And when I did this, within the 2 working days, I think it was the second day, I now got credited back. That's why I'm now asking that. Does any other, because we need a situation whereby we ensure that the customers we are telling, okay, go to bank, so that when we tell them that go and fill Dispensary form, is from a place of, is when you fill your Dispensary form that maybe they will log it or something. So that's what I'm asking. Because in that case now, I logged it online and they gave me a false answer in quotes and said it was successful. But so then I went to the bank and, filled the form and everything, and they now resolved it. So which one, let me ask your personal opinion. Which one would you recommend? Which one, works fast?
Left to me, I'll prefer you go to the branch where you meet with a desk officer. You explain your challenges to the person. The person reviews your account. You fill a form with the right transaction details. Then at that point, you are rest assured that from that day when you went to make that complaint, action will be taken.
Okay.
Do you understand? You could talk to somebody on the phone, you call somebody, maybe at that moment the person was even still struggling, his biro was not writing, or something, or he wrote it on a paper, somebody else came, picked it, different things might have occurred. But going to the branch, filling the form is the most ideal. That is what I always advise people to do.
Okay. Thank you very much. Toluwase, do you want to contribute to this? Since you also work from a bank, is this your own advice as well? Toluwase. Tolu? Okay, I think she may be stuck on the screen. Yeah, she's stuck on the screen. Thank you, Oladapo. We're actually rounding up. Bola, but let me just quickly throw this to you because, I loved, your in-depth explanation. So we have some questions there. And one says, why do people get issuer or switch inoperative? I love how you explained the entire touch points, how a debit error occurs. So can you help us understand better, why, you try to do some transaction and then you get issuer or switch inoperative? Can you shed more light on that?
Okay, thanks.
The reason why you get that error, that's an error message. It's still because there's an obstruction between the different endpoints of a transaction. So it's still just basically telling you that there's a failure So probably it failed from the points where the error came from the switch, from the point where the switch was also supposed to confirm that this transaction was successful. That is why you got that error issue.
Okay, I think Toluwashe is stuck again on our. Okay, and she's back. All right, I think Toluwashe's network. I mean, we all know how these things can be. Gbadebo, do you want to continue from where she stopped? Yes, please. Can you
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so so it's basically just speaking to the name of the error itself, issue of switching operating. Like I explained earlier, there are 5 basic touch points for a transactions to be concluded as successful. So a downtime on any of them will basically truncate that transaction along the line. So when you have switch or usual inoperative, just basically telling you at that point in time, the card issuer, as is the bank that issued that card, for some reasons their network is down and they can't authenticate your transaction at that point in time, or maybe the processor too. So the issuer, or so the switch rather. So the switch is what we normally refer to as the processor, oftentimes, probably even NIPS too as well. So sometimes they suffer downtime, and then you have those kind of errors, switch or usual, inoperative. So for that reason, at that point in time, that transaction is truncated, and then you can probably just try again later on before you're able to get a successful transaction. So that's basically.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so very much for clarifying that. And of course, you can get debited when you get an issue.
Sorry.
Yes.
Ura, let me just in a layman language, it's more like running a relay race. The betting is involved. The first leg person, the person who is starting the race, has to pass the betting to the next person, and it goes rounds that way. But if for any reason somebody is missing along the line, the betting won't get passed. So it's either the betting drops there and gets stuck there, or you understand. So the transaction won't be completed. So that's just a simple analysis of this whole thing.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much for clarifying that. So thank you all so much. I mean, this has been such an enlightening session. I don't know if Toluwashe is back. I would love for her to respond. So I just want to, just before we round up, I wanted to ask about the dispense error form. Is it the same with your bank? Must customers physically come in to fill dispense error forms before that disputes can be resolved? Are there other channels that you use, and are these channels as effective as coming in to fill the form? And which one do you recommend? Let's just get that before we
Okay, thank you, Hura. So the first thing is, when you have this dispense error, you definitely have to fill a form, the dispense error reimbursement form. Now, you don't have to fill it like physically by going to the bank to fill the form. You can log it, you can go to the bank's website, the form is available there, and then fill it and submit it on the bank's website. Or you can call the bank's contact center, and then they could send you an email, and then you fill the form and then resubmit it back. But I would say the best thing is that don't just make a complaint without filling the form, because now when this form is filled on different platforms, it is all put together, and then we have an in-house platform where all these chargeback forms are gathered together and then treated. So if you did not fill a form, it will be very difficult to, you can't just say, oh, I got a debit, and then you just a phone call and that was it, and then you expect that would have been treated, except if the person that received the phone call at the contact center was taking down the details, the exact details. But if you log the complaint on the ATM, you fill a form. If you log it on our website, you fill a form, and if you go to the bank, you fill a form. So it's best to fill a form so you know that this is working. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So thank you all so very much. I'm just looking through the questions here. Thank you so very much. We've officially come to the end of the panel discussion, but we'll just take a couple of questions. We've actually addressed most of the questions here, but I'm just looking at some, right? So some people are asking, like, when do we get to a place where declined or debited transactions can be automatically reversed just to save them stress? So I don't know if Bolapo, Oladapo, Toluwashe, does your bank have any of this? Because for us now, most of this thing is out of our own hand. For automatic reversal, like for crediting the customer, we don't credit customer. But you work with the banks, you work with your team. So is there any are you doing anything? Is there discussions? Are there talks ongoing to reduce at least maybe the time frame for which people will get, like, an automatic reversal be, how will I put it, be more encouraged than even customers? Because the kind of service we offer, the reason why people go to our agents, because banks is not close. Banks are not close, rather. So it's very inconvenient if they now get an error through something that is not on them. I mean, it's not really anybody for the most part. You don't know which of the 5 touch points will not communicate. If us not saying, oh yeah, go to bank to complain, very far, right? So if there's anything you can do us to make us happy, we really appreciate it.
Let me address that. Okay. For POS transaction, the merchant is present, the terminal is present, then the card holder is present.
Yes.
The card holder inserts his card on the terminal, imputes his PIN. The only one can confirm value was not given is if the receipt shows declined.
Okay.
And that receipt on its own, the acquiring bank will still have to engage the merchant to confirm that was the transaction successful or did it fail? Do you understand? Yeah. So we've had instances where the transaction declined, but because the card holder insisted and he pressurized the merchant that give me back my money. Yeah, I need this money for an emergency. It's an emergency, give me back my money. Then the merchants would now manually refund the card holder.
Okay.
So if the card holder is that fraudulent type, the card holder will go to his or her bank to file for chargeback again, even after collecting the money. Yes. Even after collecting the refund manually from the merchant. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So it is only the merchants that can now tell us that, yes, the transaction failed actually, but I manually refunded the card holder. So at that point, we will now ask for a proof. What's the proof? Okay, yes, I made him sign. This is his signature. This is the amount he collected, and this is that. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So I cannot really say that the reversals can be guaranteed like it is for ATMs. The only thing that can guarantee the reversal is if the merchants on their own do a refund or they collate the transactions that failed. Once they check, they collate and they send to their bank that please process reversals for these transactions.
Okay.
At that point, some majority of these dispute portals have a process where you can do AIR. It's called AIR, Acquirer Initiated Refund. So rather than waiting for the cardholder to go to his or her bank to log the complaints, that means the reconciliation officer of the merchant has checked and has seen that, yes, of the 29 transactions that were done on our terminal today, 15 failed.
Okay.
So refund the cardholders. So at that point, the transaction details of the 15 will be availed the acquiring bank. And then the acquiring bank will now be able to initiate a reversal. So that one automatically blocks the cardholder from filing for chargeback at his or her bank.
Yeah.
Because it is on that same portal, the reversal will be triggered. And once it's triggered, it blocks the avenue of raising chargeback again for such transactions.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so very much, Oladapo. So Puruso, let me just address this second question to you. So an agency has said you can log disputes, of Dispensary via the POS or the ATM machine. She said, how do we do that? Please explain more. Can you quickly put, our agents here on this webinar through how to log a cash out transaction as dispute on the PayCentre application, please note that you can log it on their PIN pad itself. That's the MPOS, but you can log it on the PayCentre application. So is that something for those that don't know? And then the information is also on our social media at PayCentre Africa, and we're always creating content on that.
All right. So for dispense errors, how to log it on our application. So when you carry out a transaction and it failed and the customer was debited, so you have to just click on the transaction information and scroll all the way down to the bottom where you see log as dispute. So you click on log as dispute. It's going to bring out a place where you have to fill the necessary information, put the customer's phone number, put the transaction you're trying to dispute and log it as dispute. So once you log it as dispute, we receive it on our own end. It's that easy to log as dispute. So you don't have to do it with your PIN pad. You have to do it with your application. It's best to log it as dispute immediately after it occurs, so you don't have to have the issue of going to the bank.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Sopuru, for that. And I mean, it's just key to also mention. So in a case whereby you know your customer does not have a debit alert, because we usually require that you upload debit alert, right, for some transactions. You can just take a screenshot of transaction on your application and upload that as well, just so that you can log it on time and we can get it resolved. Thank you all so very much. I'm still you know, looking through some of the questions. Israel switching operative has been responded to. Charges. Okay, Bolaba, I think this is for you. They said you should list the points of transactions. Okay, so I think that was when you were speaking. Is it possible for you to quickly list those 5 points of transactions, you know, for some agents again? And while Bolaba is trying to answer that, someone said, okay, this is for PayCentre. Has there been a case where PayCentre reversed a failed transaction automatically? Unfortunately, no. If a failed transaction is automatically reversed, it is the customer's bank that did that, not PayCentre. I think the most that PayCentre can do is we can credit the agent immediately, right, for a cash out. If the shows failed and it's successful, the agent can be credited within 24 hours. But in a case where, you know, you get failed or any of the error messages and your customer gets debited and an automatic reversal is done to the customer, then that's from the customer's bank. It's only the customer's bank that can credit the account, you know, for now. So that's it. Then Bola, but just to add to your 5 points, when you're answering, someone said out of the 5 points, the last is the customer's banks. Which of these debits the customer? So you can answer those two together. So where you are answering, you know, the one about just helping us list the 5 touch points, which I will also put in the comment section for everyone to see. Can you tell us which one? I think you said is anyone that does not communicate that can debit it, right? So they said which one of these debits the customer.
Okay, so let me just take it through because everybody understands. Can you hear me?
Please, can you reduce your, sorry, increase your volume? Perfect, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the way it works. The first point of touch is the POS terminal. So I'm a card holder, I go to the agent's location, I put in my card on the terminal, right? So my card can be any bank. It can be GT Bank, Access Bank, any bank that has issued that card to me. It can be any bank, local or international. So I use my card on that terminal. The terminal is the first touch point. From immediately I press my PIN and put enter, the terminal sends that transaction to NIPS, right? So NIPS is the second touch point. Yeah, exactly. From NIPS takes that transaction and send it to what we call the processor, or sometimes they call it the switch. Okay. Right? So at your point of terminal setup, your bank will have decided who they want to be your switch or your processor. And like I said, in Nigeria, it's primary inter-switch or unified payment. But it's the bank that decides that route. So from NIPS, it goes to the processor, right? So the processor takes that transaction and looks, okay, this transaction from so-and-so bank card, I do have connection to that bank. I will have to send it to the card scheme. That's Visa or Mastercard or Verve card here. Are you following me? So from the processor, it goes to the card scheme. So that's where Visa card, Mastercard or Verve card comes in the picture. So they are the ones that now have direct connection with the issuing bank, the bank that gave you that card. So the card scheme then sends that transaction to the bank.
Okay, so the bank that's the customer's bank, right?
Exactly, the bank that gave you that card to check whether you have money in your account. You
Oh,
understand?
okay.
You get the error, insufficient funds, because the bank that will have sent that information, insufficient funds. That's how they know you don't have enough funds in your account. You understand? So the bank will look, oh, is there money in this account? Yes, there's more.
I think Badebo's network, just sits for a bit. Let's see if we are able to get him back. But I'm listing all the touch points. Okay, he's back. Hello, Badebo. So yep. So I've listed the touch points now. Okay. So Badebo's networks seem to have ceased. Okay, thank you. Let's see if we can quickly take another question while we wait for him. I mean, the only thing he has to respond again is just out of the points, which one debits the customer more than once with same amounts. How do you identify a particular debit transaction and debit and sent to the customer? In a case, Akitola, I think you may be able to help with this. Yes. Okay, is Hello? Back?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
I mean, okay, sorry for that.
Yeah, it's okay. So we can you increase your voice? Okay,
sorry. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Is it better?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So I was saying, so when the transaction is successful at the bank, right? The transaction is successful at the bank now sends that communication to the card scheme the same way it came, the same way to go back. So the card scheme, from the card scheme, it goes to the process.
Oh, I think we've lost you again. Hi, Bola. Yes, we can hear you back now. I think we've got you back now.
Can you Okay.
Okay. I mean, while Bola Boy, sorts out some of the internet connection issues. So, Akitola, let me just throw this question at you from Destiny.
Okay, we can't hear me again.
We can hear you
now.
Am I done?
Okay. Okay, so.
Sorry, I think you've actually listed, the 5 touch points.
Okay, so you are fine with my.
The other customer now asks that, okay, which of these debits the customer out of the touch points? So is it the customer's bank? Is it the issue?
It's the customer's bank. It's only the customer's bank that can debit you. No other person can debit exactly. So the why dispense occurs is that you have been debited in your bank, but the communication back to the terminal is slow. Okay. You understand? And I said the terminal has a timeline of 60 seconds. If the terminal does not get a notification back in 60 seconds, it declines. You just see printout decline, whereas you have already been debited.
Oh, exactly. Awesome. Thank you so very much for clarifying that. I think that really helps. So, Akitola, thank you, Bolabo. Let's just, I don't know if you can help with this question. So someone said in the case where a debit transaction was done more than once with the same amount. So let's say the person comes, I want to, maybe they tried 20,000 or 2,000 naira twice from the same customer. They said, how do we as agents identify a particular transaction debit with the debit alert sent to the customer? Is it possible? Is there a way this can be known? So even if the customer, maybe the customer does 2 transactions, maybe one is successful, one fails, right? And of course, he gets 2 debit alerts. If I'm understanding it, how do they know, okay, this one, or this is the debit alert, this one, that's debit alert? Is there a way to identify that?
Well, it's actually very difficult to identify transaction with just debit alert, because most debit alert that comes with bank actually has the date, amount, and balance. They don't really carry much other details. So the best the agent can do at that instant is to log both transactions. So when the agent logs both transactions, definitely the one that was successful will definitely be declined, and the one that failed will be accepted for reversal, so the agent can get refund for that transaction.
So if I get to right now, whenever there's that kind of thing, are you saying the agent should log both? I mean, I don't know.
Yes.
That's not able to.
Yes.
Okay. So
should log both. And if the agent is complaining about both transaction, because actually looking at the debits, you might not know the one that actually was successful unless it was logged by the bank. So because the bank has a way of checking, the bank can confirm the one that is successful. But looking at it, debit alert, you can't actually confirm the successful one. So the best is for the agent to log both. So the successful one will actually be rejected, while the failed one will be accepted for refund.
Okay, all right. So I hope this answers, Destiny's question. So if you do 2 transactions and both were debited, right, or failed, just log it. Even if it's 3, if it's 10, log everything. Then that is going to be resolved. Answer question. Time frame to log in disputes. Is there an alternative for customers to fill error form without going to the bank? I think we've responded to that. For PayCentre, just to reiterate, time frame to log this is usually advised, as soon as possible within 24 to 48 hours. If you go to the bank, of course, I don't know, maybe Toluwashe or Lapo can respond. There's no time frame. Is there a time frame for which you can log dispute on the transaction? That's actually a very important question. Can you respond to that?
We have a time frame of 120 days.
120 days. So that's 3 months.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
To log in a dispense error. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So after 120 days, we assume it was a failed transaction and money.
Yes. Yeah.
120 days. Okay. Thank you. So I mean, that's like very, very important. So I mean, those are the kind of things that I want our agents to know so that they can, let their customer know. Okay, we've done issue or switch. I think we have time to take, one more question. Then we can go. Sorry. Okay. So, dear partners, really sorry, I'm taking questions that relate to the webinar for now. I can see that a number of people are asking about printer or other things. Please follow our social media, PayCentre Africa. All of these other questions will be responded to there. We actually do, put out content every day to just enlighten you more on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So follow us on PayCentre Africa, and every other question that you have here that is not necessarily related to the webinar, topic, we are going to see, how we can address it online. As for the printer, we are not currently selling the printer at the moment. We advise that you get a compatible printer, your local markets. Or I sent it to Mr. Austin instead of everyone. I did the transaction twice, customer. So this one is part of what we also, responded to. Just log everything. Account opening. Okay. What happens then? Visual. So I'm just going up again just to see some other questions that are relating. Okay. So I mean, in the absence of like any other question relating to the webinar, my question, pending funds transfers, we are going to address that in So Puru already mentioned time range for logging disputes. We advise you to log it as soon as possible, but if you can still log it within, a day or 2 after the transaction was done, that will also work. Partner, please. So customer will tell them that the money is with the POS. We've resolved that. Okay, that's convenience. This is bank and was directed back to the location. Yeah. So okay. So yeah, I have from Timitokbe, I have a cash out dispute that has remained unresolved for close to 5 months, unfortunately, because I could not log it as dispute. But even if you could not log it as dispute, your customer is still supposed to have gone to the bank to fill a dispense error form. So we are really, really sorry, without this is done, because like you said, now it is 5 months. I don't know if your customer will still be able to log that particular transaction or fill a dispense error form at the bank. So
let me Aurora, let me quickly address that.
All right.
Yes, in as much as we agree that there's 120 days to file for chargeback, there's also provision for like old claim. Okay. For you to do like a revalidation. the customer still goes to the bank and still fills the form, then the issuing bank would engage the acquiring bank via mail.
Okay.
It might not be available on the dispute portal again for dispute to be raised. So the issuing bank sends a mail to the acquiring bank stating that, hey, my customer did this transaction on your merchant's terminal on so dates, so month, and so year. Could you please engage the merchants to please confirm if the transaction was successful or it failed? So at that point, the onus will be on the merchants to critically review and confirm if the transaction failed or was successful.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
Then before the issuer as well logs it on the or sends the mail, they would have also checked to be sure the dispute had not been raised before, to be sure refund had not been processed to the card holder. You know, I always tell my colleagues, I would say when you're dealing with card holders in Nigeria, sorry to say, just have it at the back of your mind somewhere hidden that what if the card holder has fraudulent intentions?
Okay, that's
So
all right.
I think if all agents have that at the back of their minds as well, and a lot of issues would be resolved, and a lot of losses will be curbed. So I can as well use this platform to tell your agents to always ensure that they do not manually refund card holders.
We tell them, yeah.
If it's necessary, you know, we could have some exceptions, maybe like medical payments or something that is very pressing and could be life-threatening. Yes, they could exceptionally, but when doing that, there has to be enough proof, enough evidence to show that value was given to that card holder. Let's say like you making the card holder sign a signature, the first 6 digits of the card, the last 4, the amount, the dates, the time. If possible, take a picture of the card holder and just have it kept somewhere. So by the time a dispute is raised, that's what you would avail. Let me share one very funny story that happened. A card holder went to a merchant's location, did a transaction of, I think, 250,000.
Okay.
The card holder, the transaction failed. It was debited. And the merchant advised, go to your bank. He started ranting, shouting, give me my money, this, that. Well, the merchant, in order not to disrupt his own business activity, decided to refund the card holder. But unknown to the card holder, there was CCTV capturing their transactions.
This is okay.
So he refunded the card holder, and the card holder just signed, you know, scribbled something on paper like signature and confirmed he got the money. So by the time he now went ahead to his bank to still file for chargeback. So by the time we engage the merchant said, yes, the transaction failed, but I gave this customer money. This is what he signed. And I also have this camera footage to back it up. So now tell me, somebody that collected money and still went to his bank to file for chargeback.
Wow, can you imagine?
I'll just leave that to you to classify that customer, maybe fraudulent or not fraudulent. So that is it. So merchants should always ensure that proper documentations are done when they are doing the manual, when they are refunding card holders manually.
Okay.
Even if they are going to do a transfer, there has to be a proof that is the same account where the fund left. The fund was debited, that they are crediting. They shouldn't credit another account. So that when the issuing bank is trying to do a review, they will be able to trace that, okay, this person was debited. And on the same day, he got a transfer. So at that point, it will help us, it will further aid our own this thing to the issuing bank, stating that, yes, it failed, but the merchant did a transfer to the card holder. This is a proof. Do you
All right,
understand?
thank you so very much. Yes, I mean, that is so important. So please, partners, it's very, very key. Once you have a debit, don't give your customer the money. I know customers can be difficult, but it's very important that they go to their banks. You've heard from the banks now, they have their process. They will refund their money back to them. So please, thank you also very much. That is the last question, that we'll be answering. I hope this webinar has been as enlightening and as, powerful for you all as it has been for me, because I have learned a lot. And just to round up and to answer one last question, I'm going to be inviting our head of products, Oluwatobiloba Madariola. So I have a question here that I really just want him to answer, because I don't know, I feel like a lot of agents, might also have the same issue. So someone asked, the person said, please, can you explain better why transaction will say declined on the app, on the PIN pad, and successful on the application? So I'm guessing this is, an issue that might be peculiar to PayCentre Africa. That's why I want our head of product to shed more light and what that means. Does that mean the transaction is successful, or does that mean it failed? And what should the agent do? So Toby will, answer this question. He will also give us an update. I know a lot of our partners have been complaining about the pending funds transfer transactions. So Toby will just give us an update on, what's happening, why that is really happening, and what we are doing to resolve it, and then we can finally call it a day. So just before I bring Toby on, I would like to once again extend my gratitude, my deepest gratitude to our panelists. You have all been so wonderful. You have really helped us learn, and you really, I love the examples. I love how deep and insightful this session has been, and I look forward to us doing more work and all of that. So thank you all so very much. Thank you to our agents as well. All your complaints are noted. Best believe we'll be sending all your complaints to our customer support platforms, and we will be trying to resolve as much as we can. Yes, this session is being recorded, so it will be uploaded on our YouTube, and it will also be shared via email and also our social media platform. So yes, and then my team, we will also be doing just a short summary of everything that's been discussed, what we think are the key points for you to know. We'll also share that on our blog post and via email to you as well. So thank you very much, partners. Toby, over to you as you help us answer this last question. Help us, explain what's going on with pending transactions to our agents, and give us a vote of thanks. Thank you all so much.
Oh yeah, thank you very much, Ura. Thank you, everyone. So I'll just take the question. You have failed on successful on the PIN pad, but failed on the application. So we always advise that whatever you see on the application is what we are responsible for, right? So it is possible that based on timeout, just like Dolaba has been explaining all along, based on timeout, there's a timeout on the PIN pad and also on the application. Before it gets to the application, I mean, it can't access that transaction anymore. And what we've done is to ensure that for every transaction that you do, there is a response. You have to have a response. So it is possible that on the PIN pad, which is in rare cases, to be honest, if you have a successful on the PIN pad and you have a failed on the app, what you need to go with is what is on the application. If a transaction is failed on the application, then it means it's failed on the application, right? Forget about whatever you see on the PIN pad. What we are saying is everything that is on the application, because it's the application that will update your own wallet position, which is your POS position, right? And if it's a failed response on the POS, there is no way it's going to credit your POS position. But if the customer claims he or she got debited, no problem. Just do what we've called the dispute process. Make sure that transaction is being logged as dispute. And I also saw someone saying that they have 2 failed transactions. Which one would they log, right? We always advise that you log both transactions. If you have 7 failed transactions, and the customer gets debited once, just log all 7. Leave us with that problem of figuring out which one is the failed transaction. So yeah, pretty much what it is. I would like to say thank you to everybody, all the panelists. Thank you for taking our time to help us address what this is, to help us re-educate and enlighten our agents. This is the first of its kind. It's something we would continually do, something we want to ensure that is part of our quarterly plans, because educating our customer is as good as saving ourselves a lot of stress. Just to give an update on the pending transaction, we are aware of what is going on. This has been happening for 2 days now. We are working with all major stakeholders to ensure that all the pending transactions are reprocessed. As I speak with you right now, I just got off a call to just ensure that, you know, the transactions that are pending are reprocessed. And there's a whole lot of reasons why we put up that structure that way. And we are more concerned about the agent. You know, we don't want a situation whereby customers of agents, our agents will have to go and be looking for customers and stuff like that. But like I said, you know, this reprocessing function is currently being worked on. We'll ensure that all the pending transactions are reprocessed. We'll ensure that every customer get their value within the next 12 hours. And also moving forward, you know, we are putting some things in place already to ensure that this kind of thing does not even happen anymore. You know, we're going to start enjoying a new transfer solution, you know, something that would reduce the failure rate to about 2%. You know, it's something that we believe that by the time we launch this, you know, we'll make all our agents aware of this. We understand the stress you're going through. We understand all the complaints you're getting from the customers and all that. But please be rest assured that this will be resolved. As I speak with you, it's something we are doing already, and we'll also ensure that we bring in something that's way better. That's way better than what we have currently. And yeah, on that note, guys, thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
And enjoy the rest of the day.
Yeah, thanks, Toby. Thanks to our panelists, Oladapo, Toluwase, Akintola, Bolabo, and Sopuru. You guys were amazing. Thanks to Ayobami and even Toby, all of our partners that joined. We really appreciate you. And like Toby said, we are really working on the pending transactions. Just you start seeing the difference. So we promise you. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening, everyone, and enjoy your day. Bye for now.